I am ready. I'm close to being ready.
Are you ready?
This is the intro, the beginning. So I am ready. If you are ready,
There's a storm going on outside, and here we are talking about
Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
Matt,
we're gonna ride this out until the power cuts out or we finish it. Let's see what happens.
Oh yeah, because there's been just one tornado after another. Let's go. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But how fitting that we're
How
talking
fitting.
about this.
How fitting. Now we didn't do the intro though.
No, because that'll be in.
Welcome to Mike and Matt's Matinee. I switched up the order a little
You
bit
did.
today, just
Matt and
because
Mike's
Mike
Matinee.
deserves some credit for once.
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about the movie Thunderbolts. It's directed by Jack Schreier.
Thunderbolts.
Or Schreier. I apologize to Jack if I messed up your name. So what do you know about this movie? What's your relationship to Marvel?
So Thunderbolts,
Yeah.
another Marvel movie,
Mm-hmm.
another Marvel chunk of puke that has probably landed on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, here's the thing. Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody asked for this. I don't know if anybody wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
It is what they gave to us. And I feel like I was force-fed some more Marvel propaganda. In all honesty, Thunderbolts felt like they were dissing and crapping on every single movie that they created that got them to where they are now.
I think so. That's interesting. How so?
So, okay, we'll just break it down
Mm-hmm.
into a couple of things. First of all, the advertisement, the new Avengers, the way that they revealed it even to the cast
Mm-hmm.
was a surprise. It's like, here's the new Avengers. This bunch of...
Well, kind of. It's kind of. We know there's two Avengers teams being assembled.
Well, see, that's once again another point of contention that I have with Marvel.
Yeah, this happened in the comics too. I think
They just...
from where there was this B team that was going around doing stuff that wasn't really the Avengers, and that's kind of what this is set up to be. Like, these people are not really they are discount Avengers, and that's why at the end of the movie, we have the new Captain America, the guy who took over. Which once again, I'm not the biggest Marvel guy, so I apologize for mixing up some names.
how many
But
Marvel
was it
movies?
Anthony B. Mackie?
Yeah.
Is it right? Like his character, he's the new Captain
He's the
America.
new Captain America.
He is basically like sent them like a cease and desist at the end of the movie, because they're just like, hey, you
You
can't be
do
the
this.
Avengers, right?
Exactly.
I'm assembling the Avengers. You can't assemble the Avengers, because
You're not wrong.
that's the whole thing that happens at the end of the new Captain America movie. Is that Harrison Ford's character in that movie is like, assemble a new Avengers team, and Anthony Mackie's like, all right, we'll do it. I haven't seen that movie. I only know this through the grapevine, so my information could be very, very flawed and inaccurate, so I apologize.
How many
Once
Marvel movies have you seen, Matt?
I have not seen a Marvel movie since Ant-Man.
There you go. So
I'm very behind on this.
I pretty much stopped after like season 1 of Loki. I stopped after the new Captain America.
Which one? The newest one? Like,
yeah, Anthony Mackie's.
So you
Captain
watched
America.
that?
I didn't watch the
Okay.
No, yeah. The TV show, because after Endgame, they're really digging into the
TV
shows.
show with the U.S. agent John Walker's character in it?
Exactly. And I didn't watch any of the Marvels or anything like that. I didn't watch She-Hulk. It's just there's
I've seen a couple
much.
episodes of She-Hulk, and I've seen a couple episodes of WandaVision. I think after
WandaVision. I've seen
after
WandaVision.
Ant-Man. So that was it as far as like post, and then because Deadpool was still before Ant-Man, I believe. I think it was Deadpool 2016, Ant-Man 2017, I believe.
I wouldn't consider Deadpool kind of part of this world though, because Deadpool's not been a lead up to any of the Avengers. It's only been a lead up to its own shows.
Yeah.
It's like Deadpool, Wolverine, which I absolutely loved.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't throw it into this Marvel.
You don't think they're gonna combine? They're gonna congeal?
I hope they do. I think it would bring some freshness to it.
I think they're going. I think it's going to.
I would love
because
to.
They're kind of hinting, with the new movie, the Doomsday movie. You see a bunch of X-Men cast members, like old ones in it.
Good.
But you also see there's like one new X-Men cast. So like Gambit is going to be in it, and that's Channing Tatum. So it's new Gambit is in the new Avengers like movie that's coming out in a year or two. But so it's a bunch of old X-Men, and then like the Fantastic Four cast, and then this discount Avengers team, and the real Avengers team. There's like a whole bunch of people in it. So
Yeah.
and it makes me feel like if the X-Men are starting to become roped into the actual main plot, there's a chance that the Deadpool X-Men characters are going to be in there because they introduce like Domino
That would be nice.
and Cable and and Wolverine and those different characters. I just feel like it's going to happen at one point, but I'm not sure. We don't know what the future holds.
I hope so. So, in my honest opinion, Marvel's been a mess since Endgame.
Yeah,
and it's going on record.
It's been a mess, but at the same time, I will say that I think that it's also not, with the exception of a couple movies. I think the Eternals is not very good. So I've also been. I've been around a bit of that movie being played, and it definitely bounced off of it. I don't think that it's quite as catastrophically bad as people make. No, all Marvel movies.
Marvel stuff. Okay.
Because I definitely do think that I can understand people's, disenfranchisement with it. Where they don't really, they're just like, hey, But at the same time, it's not as bad as people pretend it is. I think a lot of people kind of are riding this hate bandwagon because it's cool to do it as well.
Which is not me.
Yeah, I know it's not you. I just mean and that's why the discourse around it has been so negative, and why I've also been avoiding it. Watching movies myself.
You're talking about like Marvel
as a whole. Yeah, because it's just been so because I'll watch it and then like the internet outrage will come out on like something like She-Hulk, and everyone was talking about it being like the worst thing that's ever happened to cinema.
It's not true. And
I watched it. I'm like, it's not bad. It's not that bad. And it's made me just not want to engage with it very much.
Yeah, it's become the trope of like toxic anime culture.
Yeah,
in a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely a toxic Marvel hate train culture. Yeah. But where there's a nugget of truth to their criticism, but I think it's just blown way negative.
Yeah,
but
true.
But that being said, we're gonna review this one movie. And so me coming into it, this is the first movie I've watched in years. And this is the first you've watched more than me, so you're a little bit more informed.
But not
but a lot more than me because you saw most
stuff.
of Phase 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've even seen like characterization that this movie is built from that I
correct.
Don't even have,
I've seen.
I don't even have exposure to.
I've seen Black Widow and
exactly.
stuff where our main character actually came from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should. So I think for that reason, I think you should lead, and then I'll give you my perspective as somebody who doesn't watch these movies very much. So.
Okay, sounds great. So obviously, this movie has taken a little bit of momentum, and it has gone somewhere. It is going somewhere. It's made some money. It's gotten some clout.
Lots of money and really high critics and audience scores.
Which is great because I can see that Marvel is trying to try something new. Great. I really love it. But from my perspective, it seems, from my perspective as someone who saw the Avengers assemble for the first time and felt that energy and felt the amazement of it, it seemed like the whole movie was dissing the original Avengers and dissing that original feeling. And there's like 3 scenes I can think of off the top of my head that were straight cut from some of the Avengers movies, and they were just making fun of it.
It's like an allusion to certain scenes. Yeah.
Secondly, there's a lot of serious, deep topics that they try to get into, but then they completely ruin them with like a stupid joke, or don't go into it far enough in a mature way that our audience can actually digest. And so they hold their punches all throughout Thunderbolts. They did my boy Iron Man bad. I love Iron Man. I have a whole Iron Man set up of collection, and they went to the Avengers Tower and was just like, nope. Yeah. Why is the Avengers Tower not a museum or something? Like, my partner told me that. Like, she's like, it would make more sense instead of it just being empty to be a to be a museum. Now,
what's cleared out? Maybe it was being used as a museum. We don't know.
Well, she bought it or something, but still, it was just the whole movie felt like it was a setup to make more jokes about the Avengers. It personally, it just felt passionless, in the sense of let's respect where we came from, which they don't, and let's just diss it all completely instead of actually focusing on what they've been doing wrong, which is just expanding it so much, the Marvel Universe, that it's impossible to keep up with nowadays unless you spend a whole month of your life digesting and watching everything. Now, the characters are fantastic. I think the actors did a great job. The way it was shot was really fun, except for the first half of the movie, and we can get in that a little bit later when we do our spoilers review.
Yeah.
And then it also seemed like Marvel was kind of ripping off of Homelander there towards the end. And none of the... And lastly, after I'm gonna stop dissing it after this. We can get further into it. I feel like I'm really shredding this apart. I should probably turn it down a little bit. But lastly, it just... There were no stakes. There were no stakes. The end of the movie was no different from the beginning. I watched a whole 2.5, 3 hour movie for them to just end up right back where they were at, in a way.
In what way? How what do you in what capacity?
So yeah, they're together, but there was really no connection for any of them to still be together.
Well, I feel like there's a connection with 3 of them,
and that's it. It's not everybody's story.
I feel like Bob, Yelena, and then Red Guardian feels like it makes a lot of sense for them to just because they have a connection, and it's not surprising they're the 3 that easily got the most fleshed out
and stuff,
most
like that.
Screen time and the most explored, emotionally.
But I also just feel like Bob was just thrown in there, kind of like an odd Oreo in the bunch.
Yeah.
And he was made fun of as like a joke through the whole thing, to the point where it kind of got annoying. And the Red Guardian and what's our main character's name? Yelena. The Red Guardian and Yelena story was cute and endearing, but they didn't really go into it. They kind of just chit-chatted about it, and it was all fixed and all good.
Yeah.
In the middle of the street. There was no, like, heartwarming moment. It was just, hey, I'm sorry, which is fine. They needed it for their character growth and their progression. But I would have liked to have kind of seen more of a mature approach to it. More of a, hey, let's give them the proper setting, the proper dialogue to really dig into why they're having family issues, even though they're not technically a family.
Yeah.
So, but with that being said, I have still given it a 5. It's average. I feel like this movie is still watchable. There are some things in it that you could probably really deep dive and dissect, but you have to put the effort and everything into it. All right, so I think I'm done. Yeah. Matt, tell me how you feel about Thunderbolts.
So I actually kind of ended up feeling a little bit more positively about it than you, which is maybe due to the fact I don't watch very many of these, but I don't think that is the case. I think Thunderbolts is I didn't really get the fact that it was like making fun of the stuff of the past. For me. For me, it was like mirroring the Avengers in a way.
Okay.
But it was also it's like an attempt to establish this tonally from what they've done in the past, which I think has been the big problem for them. This movie is more serious in tone than most of the stuff that they've made, and I think it was a step in the right direction for them.
Agreed.
I think that some of the character work really works. I think Yelena is really good. I think Florence Pugh did a great job.
She did an absolutely
she's really
fantastic
good.
job.
She's super good, and I was more connected to her than I was with Black Widow.
Florence Pugh
for me, because I didn't watch the Black Widow movie, so there's also some characterization I'm missing there. But for me, in the stuff I've seen, like she's much more fleshed out. She's allowed to carry this, and I think that the explorations of like depression and darkness and mental health in it is not as like deeply explored as some art house movies or some dramas that I've seen, but for a movie of this type, I think it's an interesting direction to go in, and I actually kind of respect them for trying, it, and I think that it almost works,
See, that you hit it right on the head. Like they just get right there, and then they do that.
Yeah, so I'll say, as far as, and I can get into a little bit, but just real quick, the cinematography is good. The first shot of the movie I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it's like because it's definitely has some Park Chan-wook influences.
Cool.
Where they're kind of copying his hallway scene at the beginning, but it's from the top. It's like so it's instead of like the top down hallway fight scene instead of the sideways one. So I knew kind of what they're doing there.
There's a scene in John Wick too, where he does something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people have been copying that, which for reasons it's one of the best shots.
Cool.
But the camera does what it needs to do. I think that the direction got less interesting as the movie went on. The camera work, it got a little bit. There was a lot more interesting shots, compositions, and angles and stuff going on at the beginning of the movie, and then as it kind of gets into the more of the action scene kind of stuff, it gets a little bit more generic. It's a little more Marvel generic as it moves on, which is fine. The music, I don't remember any of it.
Nope.
Which is fine. But once again, I don't actually think that it was a big deal because this movie is so serious anyway. I don't think it was supposed to like draw attention to it itself like Guardians does, But I will say that the attempt, the things that are bringing the movie down is, one, I'm not a big fan of the sense of humor in the movie. I think that the comedic styling that are in the Marvel movies worked for the first part of it, and it worked for a little bit. But I think that we've had so many movies in this comedic style, that ironic, quippy kind of, that we're just kind of wanting them to change it up.
Yeah.
And so
we need something refreshing.
The comedy scenes that work, like I think the funniest scene in the movie is the one where Yelena meets Red Guardian for the first time in Red Guardian's house when towards the beginning of the movie, and they're just having a naturalistic kind of conversation in the house about like his past, about her soccer team, and the humor is much more dry, it's much more pulled back, and it's much more like chuckle funny, but that's really what this movie needed through the whole thing, because you really start to feel pulled out of the dramatic tension of the movie, especially when it gets like the main villain.
Yeah.
The main villain girl, Valentina, was played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
She did a great job being someone you wanted to hate.
Yeah, but at the same time, like any time that she was like trying to be someone you wanted to hate, or being kind of menacing, or kind of like bureaucratic evil, like lawful, like it worked. But anytime that she just started making like the usual Marvel quips, her secretary, it really bounced off of those scenes. I'm like, I don't really feel like the amount of blood on this lady's hands. Like, I really don't think we should be doing this kind of quippy dialogue with this character.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think that those kind of things hold it back a bit. It's the weakest part of the thing. Now I will say, because the movie is focusing on the more dramatic stuff, the scene at the end, like between Red Guardian and Yelena that you were talking about, I think it kind of works, because it's like the first time it's like the very first layer being stripped away, of the barrier between them.
You need to watch the previous.
Oh, right. Okay.
Marvel
Once again, I
movies.
haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So for me though, it's like that's like she kind of breaks her shield, her wall, and she just basically like gives him at least a little something to work with. She's like, hey, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and it's like the first time that she starts to like allow herself to feel something, and I think that's kind of how it works. I think the movie didn't have enough time to really go into it as much as I honestly agree with you that I would like to see it do. Yes. But I think that it's also like it's realistic for it to take time as well. But I'm afraid that as we get into cosmic insanity in the Avengers movies, that isn't going to be developed as much.
Yeah,
as
it's
going to
be lost.
You know what I mean?
Completely.
So I agree with you there, but I do like the also scenes with Yelena and Bob. You know, the scene where well, you know, which we'll get into the spoilers, but I thought that some of the one sort of scene where they're kind of relating to each other about their darkness, about their problems.
The
they've had in
first
their
one or the
past.
second one?
The second one during the climax.
Yes.
I actually think that really works really well. That just the dialogue scene between them.
It was,
you know what I mean?
okay. The symbolism in that scene, 100%,
Yeah.
gave me chills.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, when we look at this, Thunderbolts is an attempt to establish itself different because we have a situation here where most of these heroes are not high-powered. They're low-powered heroes for the most part that have to deal with the main climax of this film in a way that doesn't involve shooting, blowing up, beating up people.
Yeah.
So unlike most Marvel movies, it doesn't end with this giant CG action blowout fest. It ends in a kind of a more, you know, in a way where they have to
Introspective.
You introspective and have to like win the day and be heroes in a different way, in a different manner.
Well,
and I
honestly,
think that the symbolism, you know, like because there's the scene where it parallels the Avengers in the city streets.
Yes.
You know, but really, you know, but that scene is when the Avengers are visually represented to the audience as like they're together, they're the team.
Yeah.
You know, in that shot that like spins around them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really the scene that does it in this movie. The scene that cements them as a team is the group hug scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, so, and I think that's important to have heroes that can do that as well. Yeah. You know, in cinema. And I think that even though this is, you know, it may not be the most nuanced or well fleshed out version of that, I respect the hell out of it for doing that, though. And
I will give them a positive mark for going that way, and for them trying it. It just doesn't hit it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. And I think the last thing I'll say is that I really feel like some of the characters in this movie don't do as much as they should.
No.
I think that after the first section of the movie, like you were talking about, John Walker and Ghost, like not really being a real reason for them to join in the, like it doesn't really feel like they have bought fully into being this group or this team. The way the movie wants you to feel, like whenever that, you know, there's that symbolic group hug kind of thing. I'm like, I don't buy them all. I don't buy like Ghost doing that.
No.
I'm like,
no,
why?
no.
Why? Like, you know, but even them being in the finale, it almost feels like they should have just split. They should have just separated. You know.
So here's the thing, the original Avengers had a fantastic setup with each person having their own film to really flesh them out, and then you mush them together.
Right.
Except for like Hawkeye and Black Widow, right? This one feels like they didn't have the ability to really flesh everybody out, but they put these characters in a wild situation and let's get them out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I think they do, as somebody who hasn't seen most of the movies where these characters are established in, I still feel like through expository dialogue, they still give you enough of an inclination about where the characters are from and like what they've done. Like, you know, because they all meet each other and they're all kind of like talking in a way that like somebody who's seen all the movies would be like, they're just talking, they're just telling their backstory,
which I haven't seen.
But for me, it was like more like, oh well, no, I kind of understand their relationships. I can understand bits about their past, like whenever the U.S. agent John Walker character talks about, like, you know, there's the flashbacks to his wife or where they start talking about him killing the terrorist in the show. You know, you get little bits of what they've done and kind of like why they're in the position they're in, which is fine, but you know, it seems like they're really pushed to the background. The Ghost and Walker character, and it makes sense because like I'm assuming that they were fleshed out. Like I don't know what movie Ghost was in. I know Ghost was in one of the other movies, but
it's
you know,
Ant-Man.
but when we look at,
she was in Ant-Man.
Was it Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Or was it Ant-Man 2?
I think it was Ant-Man 2.
Yeah, because I haven't seen Ant-Man 2. But you know, but when you look at this movie as a standalone picture, it's a problem because like I don't know, I haven't seen that, and they're in the plot, you know, and a lot of people would be excited because like, oh man, it's Taskmaster, it's John Walker, it's this person. They're all kind of like showing up,
which is what Deadpool Wolverine did absolutely fantastic.
Right. But then they're like, once they show up and they have like this great scene. I think actually the opening scene with John Walker and Ghost and everybody when they all sort of meet up and they have this big action kind of fight scene at the beginning together.
You're still wondering what's going on,
but like
at that point,
but like after a point. They're given so little to do, a couple of these side characters, that I think that's the problem. Because if you took them out, if they had left to show up in Avengers Doomsday later, if they had left the plot and then you would focus that screen time on fleshing out the Yelena Bob stuff or the Yelena Red Guardian stuff, I think that stuff would have been better. You'd have more screen time for it. I think it would have been like. But as it stands, you know, here and I guess the last thing is I think that the teasers at the end of the movie weren't necessary, and in fact, actually kind of hurt it because if the teaser because the big reveal about them being the new, you know, Avengers is already a crazy reveal. I mean, yeah, sure, they're fake Avengers, or are they? We don't know, but that already is enough of like a huge reveal. Like the Stinger is not any crazier. You're just like, oh, there's like, oh, we see this other kind of plot lead in, but it's not as crazy of a reveal as what happened in the actual movie.
No, it's not.
You know, so it just kind of feels kind of weak.
It's the classic Marvel setup, though,
right? And it's the thing where none of the movies always feel like
lead-ins.
They're the lead-ins to another movie and stuff, and I think that all kind of hurts it a little bit. But you know, I think that the stuff it does well, the fact that it is trying to be more serious, and the serious writing is actually really good. Like whenever the movie's not trying to be, and what you were talking about earlier about it, like about them making jokes. I will say they don't make the jokes inside of like the scene with Yelena and Bob. Like when they're relating to each other, they know on certain key scenes to not do it. But the problem is like for every scene they do that, there's another scene that would have benefited from them not doing a quippy, sarcastic comment.
Exactly.
That it brings it down, and we understand that Yelena does it as a defense mechanism.
Coping
I get it, but it hurts. It just hurts this movie, especially because it's like dealing with such a heavy subject matter, as alcoholism and drug abuse and that sort of that. You know what I mean?
And depression,
right? Yeah,
and being stuck in the same job.
Yeah. If this movie was just straight serious, like just. It would have been pretty good.
It would have been amazing.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a Marvel movie, it would have been amazing.
Yeah. But I just think but I think that I want to give it. But I did actually enjoy it a little bit more because for me, where it didn't sell it for you, I liked it a little bit more than you, and I did actually was won over by it a little bit by the end because I liked them. I liked the characters enough. That I kind of was kind of moved by the corny hug power friendship moment a little bit, you know, and the and some of those dramatic moments, and I didn't get the negative sort of you know like criticism of the past like you did. I'm gonna go with 6.
A 6.
So 6. So
right above
because it's got enough problems that you know I definitely am not gonna put it on the good tier. But I think it's slightly above average. And I think it's because they have been making mostly average stuff. Like I gave, you know, I didn't like Age of Ultron very much. Like I personally, like I gave that a 5.
Yeah.
And I even gave Ant-Man 1. I gave Ant-Man 1 like I think a 6. I think
the first Ant-Man.
I think so. It was a 5 or 6. It's been so long since I watched that, but I think that this is like more what I want. But I want them to double down.
Yeah, definitely.
And really make this truly a different phase, like a different phase in tone. I think it'll do them a lot of wonders
about it not being kind of a more esoteric kind of art film, right? And
it's not like a drama. It's not like Manchester by the Sea, which is like one of the best movies I've seen that tackles this sort of subject matter. But
if I 100% agree, if they would just lean into what they're trying to do and not hold their punches, then it would have been a much better movie.
Yep. So,
but it's a step in a different direction, which I give them credit for, and it's obviously working but it's taking everything that I've enjoyed about the Marvel universe and just threw it out the window.
Yeah. Do you like the more serious tone yourself? I mean, do you? I mean,
I do.
Well, you agree. So, but it's like, do you want that attached to the Marvel brand?
See,
that's the interesting question here.
Respect, respect where you came from. Marvel, respect where you came from, and don't completely throw out the good parts of your universe. And we'll dig in that when we get into the nitty gritty when we get to the breakdown. Are you ready?
Yeah,
I think we're ready.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. That was pretty good. I think we hashed out pretty good. So we're going to do the spoiler section next. So stay tuned for that and click out of the video if you don't want to be spoiled.